Raymond, you want to just talk real quick just so I can make sure it's coming through?
Oh, absolutely, my man.
Okay, we're
I was
good.
just
So you're
saying,
good.
my
Gotcha.
days, this COVID world is very interesting. Although I'm kind of getting used to, I'm kind of liking this whole, you know, being home kind
A,
of
a
thing.
lot
I
more
don't,
at home time.
yeah, I don't miss commutes. Let's just say that.
Where were you working at before?
So I was driving all the way to Wauwatosa, for
Oh
my
man.
job. I'm a data scientist, so um, it's like you work with computers, but you have this 2 hour commute every day, and it's like
Ooh.
I'd rather just stay home. Now, don't get me wrong. Um, I was allowed to, kind of work, work from home sometimes, but I kind
Hmm.
of like the 100% a lot better.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So what kind of data? You said data scientist. Definitely the first data scientist I've had on the show. So
Okay,
what
cool,
what
cool.
is uh or what data I guess are you looking at in particular?
So for my day job, I specialize with machines. So the idea of uh, I'm not trying to make Skynet, but I'm trying to make more reliable machines that take care of themselves. That's the North Star. That's the goal.
Oh, okay. So what's like what is something that is just a regular everyday person that doesn't know a whole lot of what that might be? Like what's a machine that I might know of?
Well, I would maybe say focus on what do I do with data. So everyday folks, I say Netflix. You ever, depending on your age, some of us may remember that Netflix in the very beginning, you'd watch a movie, then they would ask you to rate it.
Yep, yeah.
They stopped doing that. So someone might wonder, why are they able to do even better without asking me questions? That's what data scientists do. So now they just take in all these metrics where when did you start the movie and did you watch it all the way through or did you stop and start? If you stopped it and didn't finish it, where did you stop it? And they tag all these movies, and with this data, they learn about you. When
Oh,
you
okay.
register for a Netflix account, they kind of put you in a box or boxes with other types of people. And that's how, and this was actually called the cold start problem. How do you know somebody you don't know? So that's
Interesting.
what data scientists do. One of the things.
That makes a lot of sense. So then is that along the lines then of how people are do like different targeted ads and companies will, you view something or you stopped scrolling through Facebook one and you saw this product, now that product is being shown to you 10, 12 times in a day.
Well, that's more that let's call that's more information sharing. So
Mm,
that's Facebook sharing information with Gmail and all that stuff.
gotcha.
But what we're talking about is you haven't even done anything. You just
Mm.
gave me a little bit of information about who you are. So think Capital One in banking. Uh, you didn't even ask for a loan. How do I know you want a loan?
Oh,
Or
okay.
that kind of thing.
So
You
that's
know,
getting pretty intricate then, I'd imagine.
yeah. So I always tell people that the whole "you don't know me." It's like, no, I'm a data scientist. I do.
That's fair. That's very fair. How do you get into that? How did you like in college? Were you like was there any way that you were like freshman year of college, like this is what I want to do? I want to figure
No,
people out.
app. Nah, well, okay, that was a different thing, but so maybe. So I, as a kid, I was always a people watcher. So let's start there.
Okay.
I was always a people watcher. Um, then I go into the military. I go infantry as an officer. So when you're any job, honestly, but especially such a job like that, it let's just say it helps to know people. Okay.
Mm. To
So
get how they
again,
work.
right. Not just the people working for you, but also the people that are there that are not working for you when
Yeah.
you're in a combat zone. So I found it at that time, uh, I found that it was conducive to my health to know how people operated. So I got out of the Army in 2010, and it just, even though there was no plan, just kept going from business to economics to statistics. And then people are just very interesting things, and I just couldn't stop getting into it. So even when I say I work on machines, there's not a machine that's been built that doesn't serve people. So even when I'm working on machines, it's still about people.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point. Very good point. So you mentioned am I correct me if I'm wrong, did you go to the military first and then to school?
Yes, yes. So,
Gotcha.
I went to the military academy, and so that's still military. So
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. And so, what was like the what pushed you to doing that, especially being someone like you said that was so interested in people? Was how did you get into that?
Oh, so that's the kind of question where you're gonna ask me it every day, and the answer's gonna change depending on the day you ask me.
Okay, that's
So,
fair.
yeah, keep in mind I was an 18-year-old kid, so it wasn't too philosophical. I
Mm-hmm.
think it was pretty simple. I wanted to prove I was a man. I wanted to serve, and maybe I wanted some chicks too. I don't know. Um, but yeah, it was just a matter of all that rolled up at that time. I think maybe an easier one for me is I actually started Coast Guard and then switched Army.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
Why
so
was that?
I that was definitely about the patriotic Kool-Aid. So that was
Okay.
2003, 2004. Everything was going on. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna fight for my country. So I was
Oh
a
man.
hardcore patriot.
That's yeah, that's nowadays I feel like a lot of people, especially in the last couple of days for myself, I don't know how it is for you with any feedback that you're getting, but after that last video I just put out, people were thinking that I am very against America, very anti-America because I am trying to speak out against the things that are wrong with it.
Yeah, so I'll just tell you right now, don't lose any sleep over it
Yeah.
because if I'm in a room full of 100 men and 97 are talking like that, and I then ask how many of you actually served combat time, all those hands go down on average.
Oh yeah, that's a really good point actually, especially where I'm from. The people that are saying that are not definitely not physical specimens that could and would be able to serve.
I'm
Definitely
saying even
not.
if they are able to, I find that there is a inverse correlation between how much they talk about patriotism and how many days in the military they had.
That's
So,
fair. Very fair. What so I guess shifting gears a little bit into everything that's going on right now. Just kind of glancing. I watched. I think I got about halfway through your last video, and
that's impressive. They're like 4 hours on average.
they were. Yeah, I think the last one was 3, and I was like an hour and a half in. But I had some errands to run today, and then here we were trying to set this up. Um, but I want to know as a an observer of people, what is some of the most intriguing things that you're seeing from maybe the people that disagree with the BLM movement and take offense to it even.
Well, what I see in that group is what I see in all groups right now. I see that we are a nation where, for generations, we've been told not to talk about certain things: sex, religion, politics, race, and income. So now, all of a sudden, everybody's been given this bullhorn to the world.
Hmm.
So I say, or I ask, why are we all surprised that nobody knows how to talk to each other? That's really what you're seeing here. The only time you see on average easy positive conversation is when everybody in the room agrees,
Very
or
true.
if it's super saccharine. Let's talk about cats. Let's talk about coffee. I'm in this one group. I don't even know why I'm in it because every time I look at it, I'm like, these fake people. But I've been in there for 2 years, so I'm fake too. But it's this coffee forum. It's got hundreds of thousands of people all over the world. They just post pictures of their coffee, and it's like, what are we doing here? You're drinking this coffee to go into a job you hate, but that's
Wow,
just me
yeah.
being a hater.
That's true. Yeah, I mean it's a way to look at it. It's a way to look at it.
But
Um
no, I think what we see here is life requires conflict. And right now, what we're seeing is people don't know how to have a proper fight. You can't go through life without fighting, but you might want to go to the gym, get a couple boxing lessons, maybe
yeah.
do a little cardio. And that's what you're seeing here. There's no cardio, meaning we run into people we don't agree with and we shut it down hard and fast. There's no cardio.
Yeah.
And then there's no technique at all. It's
That's
like,
that's definitely true. There is no that's one thing that when I don't like to respond to like the random outlandish people, but there's been a couple people that have, are ridiculous enough, and I feel like, okay, you know what? I feel like responding to this one,
I
and
call that duck, duck, goose.
yeah, and there's no particular reason why I chose to respond to this one, but then I respond to it, and then immediately I almost feel bad because I know that they probably got lost in the sentence structure, and I'm like, well, I guess I just wait. That's why I don't usually respond.
Well, I'll tell you this. So I went through your stuff, and I kept trying to double check where you were from.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this guy's got to be from somewhere else. I mean, I know he's reporting on Twin Lakes, but he's got to be from somewhere else. So the first thing that we have to realize is be open. You know, a
Yeah.
lot of us go in with these assumptions. So, like coming back to how you mentioned the military, I hang out down in Paddock Lake, and there's a bar that I hang out with a buddy down there, and it's the assumption that because you think a certain way, there's no way you could have done public service. There's no way you could have this background. So
Mm.
they'll talk to me the way they talk to you, like, well, I just love this country. Like, I'd do anything for this country. I'm like, oh, you serve too, bro. What unit? They're like, well, you served? Like, yeah, that's why I've structured the question that way. Where did you serve? So, well, I didn't serve, but so then they do I call it wearing someone else's crown. But my daddy's brother's uncle, he served. I'm like, oh, okay. Did he give you permission to say that when someone
Yeah.
asked you about you? So what we find is there's these assumptions that if you come from a certain place, you are a certain thing or you can't be a certain thing. And that's some of the first shell shock for most of us that none of us are monoliths. None of
Mm-hmm.
us.
No, that's really important. And I was when I was doing a little bit of looking up you, I saw that you're from Chicago originally.
Right. Born in Chicago, but I claim Baltimore when it's football season. Ravens.
Gotcha. Why is that? Why is that?
Military family. So that was the only place I lived in twice my whole life.
Okay. How long did you live there then?
Each time. So as a kid, I think I did about first time 5 or 6 years, and then the second time about 3 or 4. So I
Okay.
figured, instead of just changing teams every time you moved around or something, I was like, you know what? I lived here twice. I'm a Baltimore guy.
The
So,
Ravens the Ravens are solid. They're solid. I mean, the Bears are we're bad news. I'm a Bears fan and we're bad news. We're not doing so hot.
well, let's just say I'm not regretting changing from the Bears to the Ravens.
Yeah, yeah, I would assume not. I would assume not. Um well that's interesting that you said you're trying to double check where I'm from. I am from Twin Lakes, like where I am right now. This is the home I was raised in. Um and that's where we shoot the show, and yeah, I'm from Twin Lakes, but I think a part of the I don't I can't really tell you other than I don't really have a reason for thinking the way that I do other than empathy and life experience. Like I've always idolized like Black American culture. I grew up a huge hip hop fan and wanted to play in the NBA even though I'm 5'10" my whole life.
Oh,
And so
usually white kids that wanted to play the NBA are now bitter because they're 5'10".
no, see, but that's the issue, and that's what a lot of these. I mean, I went and played college, so maybe I got that out of me if that's what usually happens. But yeah, and then I went to Janesville and lived there for a couple of years to play college ball, and that was definitely an experience for me that maybe also helped to like you said, make kind of throw people off when they're thinking like, oh, you must think this way because you're here. Um, but yeah, I don't know how when it comes to something like the Black Lives Matter movement or just people having equal say and rights in a country, I don't think that there's even a discussion. Like I don't think that there's a debate. Like I don't think that it's you're not losing. I don't understand where these people have this. They're like, oh, everyone's telling me to be guilty. No one's telling you to be guilty, dude. If you don't think that way, then why the hell are you guilty?
Right,
You are
right.
guilty because you do think that way, and
And
that's
I
the
and I
fucked up.
I just ask people. I mean, people will say, so what is the deal with BLM? And I'll say, well, people just want equal rights. Well, uh, I'm not going to apologize for anything I didn't do. I said that makes absolute sense. I
Yeah,
just kind of I just stop there, and it gets awkward for a silent. It's like I was like, has someone come up to you and asked you to apologize for something you didn't do? Because if they are, that's kind of weird,
Yeah,
you
very
know.
weird. That would be weird.
So, and what you find is a lot of times people are talking about monsters they've imagined. They never actually met these monsters. Like
Yeah.
I doubt black people are driving in the Twin Lakes telling white people apologize to me for slavery. I
Yeah.
doubt that's happening.
Yeah.
But you'll sit down at a bar with a group of guys and they're like, I'm just tired of apologizing. Like, who are you apologizing to? And why wasn't I invited? It's like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And the thing that I was just talking with a friend of mine, and they said it pretty well, I thought, and it was, what do you lose from other people having equal? Like no one's taking yours away to give these people theirs.
See, I go deeper. I ask, what do you lose that you maybe shouldn't have? So I'm not going to say you get nothing. I'm asking you, what what are you getting that because it's not equal? Because somebody
Mm,
benefits,
that's
someone
true.
benefits. So an there's a economist I love, William Easterly. He says the nastiest, most horrible, dirtiest thing that you see men do, that whatever it is, a system or whatever, it exists only because it benefits someone.
True. That makes a lot of sense.
So I often wonder, because this is the next thing I normally hear in these circles. Well, it's not us; it's these really, really rich guys. I'm like, so if it's the rich guys and you hate the rich, why don't you help me shut it down?
Yeah, exactly.
Because that seems to be the new thing. Let's blame anyone but ourselves. Let's blame the media, even though they only sell us what we want.
Oh,
Let's
exactly. Yeah.
let's blame rich people, even though they're all rich because they sold us what we want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let, yeah,
Well,
let's
it's
blame
it's blame.
everybody
Let's
but
blame
us.
capitalism, but then we want, you know,
But we
every
hate socialism.
exactly. It's this paradox that it's ridiculous.
So I find, you know, asking questions helps. Ask people questions. What are you
Hmm.
talking about? Because how you said you did basketball. I wasn't much of a team player till I went to the military. So I wrestled, but even though it's a team, that's a one guy sport. You know what I mean? It's almost like track,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
certain sports. So for me, the military, you have all these different people from different places. And the smarter people, not everybody, don't want to die. So you do endeavor to learn how to get along. You know what I mean? You
Hmm.
don't have to love each other, but it's in your interest to get along so people don't die. So I had that experience of let's figure it out.
Yeah.
So when I came back home, it was a shock for a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons was here everything's so much easier. So I thought it'd be easier to interact with people. But what I found is because it's easier, people opt out. Because their life is not on the line, they choose not to interact.
Yeah.
Most people talk more about interacting than actually doing it. I mean, I'm amazed how I've met people that will sit there talking about how cool they are with black people. I'm like, do you know any black people?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Or no, I love this. This was a couple years back, but people, um, who was it? I forgot who. Well, growing up in Twin Lakes, I've had many well, not really friends, acquaintances say it, where they'll be like, "No, I love black people." Oh, what do you mean? No, I love black people. I'm like, dude, there's one black kid at our school. Who do you, and
And
you don't know his name? Like, you don't talk to him. What do you mean?
I used to play before I sold out. I used to play music a lot, and I'd go to certain parts of the country or whatever, and let's just say I go to a place where maybe there's only one black kid in the school, and people would come to me like, "Oh man, you were great. You sound just like Seal." I'm like, "Do I sound like Seal, or is that the only other black person you can think of right now?"
Yeah, exactly,
So
exactly.
it was always Seal or Hootie and the Blowfish. Darius
Oh,
Rucker.
oh
But
God, yeah.
and if you ever hear me do anything with music, I sound nothing like these guys. It was basically like, "Oh man, you sound like the guy from Seven Dust." Like, do I or is that the only other black person you can think of that's held a guitar other than Prince? Is that what's
God,
happening right now?
yeah.
So what you find is when we say we love a thing, that's not just a white thing, you know. I went overseas with a friend of mine, white guy, and we were talking to these women from Taiwan, and
Hmm.
they all kept saying how he looks like Tom Cruise. This was a quintessential Italian face, Italian guy.
Yeah.
Now, again, he's got like all these girls swarming him, but they just haven't seen an American guy before. So for them, American, white, you're Tom Cruise. And we're just like, you look nothing like Tom Cruise. This is you look like a character from the Goodfellas. This is ridiculous right
Yeah.
now. So the less interaction we have, the more people aren't people. They're an idea. And I think that's what we're dealing with right now, where again, I'm amazed how guys that have never spent longer than 5 minutes on South Side Chicago, they know so much about South Side Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Or that's I think I you were breaking down certain other arguments from the other side. I think it was, I forget which video it was that I was watching of yours. And one that I hear all the time that is just downright, I think it's pitiful, is the black on black crime. And they'll sit there, these guys that look like, well, don't really look like me, or gross versions of white people will say things like, well, what about black on black crime? You guys don't want to
Well,
say anything when that happens.
what surprised me again as I started getting in the public discourse is I find black people saying this. I mean, professional black people saying, "Hey, the facts are the facts. We do have a problem."
Who's that?
And so,
Candace Owens or?
no, no, I'm saying so. This was the other shocker. So I'm a stats guy, so I like working on the aggregate, the average.
Hmm.
But you have outliers. I run into other black people who will say, "What about black?" In fact, I just saw before we went on here, I just saw a black guy, share a meme that said that 98% of black people are killed by black people, 1% are killed by cops. No, it said 97% are killed by black people, 1% by cops, 2% by white people who are not cops. Biggest crock of shit ever. So I don't care whether you pull it from the Bureau, the Justice Department, or you pull it from the FBI. You've got to remember the police at the state and federal level, there's no obligation to do this. So you're not going to find these reliable stats any lower. But it teeters around 80% black on black crime. Now, what people who speak like that casually or inconveniently dismiss is that white on white crime is about 79% itself.
Mm,
So, what we should be asking, so the first thing we should have asked when we started talking about black on black crime, is it different? And the
yeah,
answer is no, it's not
exactly.
different at all. And the second thing we should be asking is, why is that? And it makes sense when you think about it. Most crimes are not away games. You know,
True. Very true.
most people are like, you know what? Bloods and Crips are not saying, you know what? Let's fly out to Miami and get this done, son. No,
Yeah.
it's proximity, who you live around. So in Chinatown, most crime is Chinese on Chinese. So you should expect that who you live around is where most of the crime will happen. Now, a large percentage of minorities still live in cities. Now, that's changing very abruptly as the younger generations adapt and move out and do their progressive thing. But you have this population that, for a long period of time, was not legally allowed to live in most places in this country. Talking about Chicago, my people were only allowed legally to live on the south side and west side. I think that was finally tore down in the 60s.
Yeah, it was. I actually, damn, I wish I had the exact timeline. I'm in a summer course right now. I'm still finishing up. I in school, and it's like a multicultural theater course because I have to get my all my requirements in, and we just watched A Raisin in the Sun, which is that's what that whole play is about. This family, three generations live in the same household. The grandmother's husband dies, so they got his life insurance policy, and she buys them a house in Clybourne Park. And this is like right as that had just been dropped. And when the white people in the neighborhood find out that they bought the house, they send over the welcoming committee to basically try and force them to not come into the neighborhood by purchasing the house from them. And there's a bunch of drama and a big family arguments that ensue, but that's like the gist of the play is whether or not they want to risk it because the last black people to live there, their house got burnt down magically.
Right.
And so that was the whole play.
And people like to talk about that like that's so long ago, but that's my parents' generation. That
Yeah.
when they were kids, so my grandparents, their parents, that is that generation where that was happening, where you're trying to move somewhere else, and you're not allowed. I mean, I talk about this a lot. Stratify. You got what? No matter your ethnicity, everyone's the same. Meaning, you got some people that aren't trying to do nothing with their lives, and you got people trying to climb. So that you'll hear that a lot. Well, the Irish had it bad too.
Oh
I love
God.
that one.
Yeah. Oh
So
God.
I say I agree, but the difference is if you were an Irish guy and you went to school and you became a doctor or a lawyer, guess what you got to do? You got to leave the Irish ghetto. If you were an Italian or a Jew and you went to medical school, you became a lawyer, you became a banker, you got to leave your respective ghetto. The African American is the only ethnicity where even if you became a banker, a doctor, or a lawyer, you were not allowed to leave the hood. They would firebomb your house. First off, they wouldn't sell you a house, but if you found a either courageous or greedy white guy to sell you a house, because you got to remember back in the day, there was no for sale by owner. It was the MLS system. Realtors had the game on lock. So if you found a guy willing to sell you a house, first off, he normally got blacklisted and shut down. But if he didn't,
Yeah.
you would get your house torched and firebombed like Jesse Bingham out of Chicago, first black banker, until one of your kids gets killed. And then you move back to the ghetto. So there you are, a doctor or a lawyer trying to build up for your kids, but your kids are right next to the kids whose parents are drug dealers, pimps, gangsters. And that is one way to destroy a people, to not allow them to stratify. So these these are things that, and we need to step back, I think, because this isn't taught in school. So when I went out into the world, I was very mad at America, not just white America, America,
Hmm.
for treating me the way it did. And then I had to realize that most of the people that I run into, they're just like me. They were not taught these things we should have been taught.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point, especially considering I was just talking to again somebody this weekend about everything that's been going on, and they'd said that they had some friend because they were asking me about my video or whatever, and I think they're not someone who's spoken out at all, and they were explaining that they had friends that are opposing the BLM movement and things like that, and we were both just agreeing that it's really easy to stay silent or to not agree with this when it's not on your doorstep and you never were taught about it in your school, and we live here where there's green grass for miles and cornfields and all this shit. And when these people, and first off, they're not teaching it to people in the cities, and
Yeah.
then they're not teaching it to the kids that will never even get a chance to see it until they go to Chicago for a Cubs game, and they won't ever come close to this. That's not the South Side. Even if they go see the Sox, they're not gonna see that, and so they will never have that in their head.
And and it's this is not unusual. Everybody's just trying to get through life. I really do believe that. Everybody's just trying to make their own way. So I don't think a guy is a devil if he's like, you know what? I really just want to stay in my own lane. I don't think that makes you scum. The question is, how bad does it have to get before you say, I can't just walk by? And I think that's what we're seeing here today, where, you know, we all do it to some degree. You read about something horrible in the paper and you're like, oh, that sucks. And you flip the page and you go back to sipping your coffee. Or I guess I should be more accurate. You keep scrolling with your thumb.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is something we all do, but how bad does it have to get for you to say, what are we, where does it have to go for you to say that this is now me, this is now mine? So I'm excited right now for what I'm seeing because while I might not agree with what everyone's doing, I'm seeing a lot of people saying, this is mine. This is not good. No, I'm not just going to go into work today. I'm not just going to continue on.
Hmm.
So for me, as bad as things are right now, I'm extremely hopeful for what the future holds.
Yeah. I mean, that's a very good point and a really good way to put it because I think, even for someone like myself who is trying to speak out like that, I've had other people now, share things, sign petitions, people that I've heard voice opinions that I would never have expected to speak out in a time like this. And, as you just said, even with how terrible things may be right now, people are mustering up the courage to say, you know what, I need to do something. I can't just, like you said, walk by. It's disgusting, and that's why people like myself and other people that maybe not usually speak out are doing so.
I think so. I'm 38 years old. So when I look at the younger generations, what I'm seeing here is I say the bad thing about younger generations is they don't listen. But the good thing about younger generations is they don't listen. So a lot of the stuff that older generations tried to push on them, they're like, nah, I'm not good with that. You're seeing that in droves where they're they're basically saying, no, don't just tell me that's how it is. It doesn't make sense that I asked you why. That's not a good enough answer to say. That's just how it is. Um, us older generations, I feel we act like we have no control over the world.
Hmm.
But I see it like a Ouija board. We all got our hands on this thing. So yeah, maybe we're not wholly controlling which letter it goes across, but it's our hands on this damn thing. We could take a lot more responsibility than we do. So really that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing younger generations take responsibility in ways that older generations didn't. And not only did they not take responsibility this way, they can't even own up to the fact they didn't.
Yeah, no, that's very true, especially being where I'm from. There's a lot of people who think just because they've lived a certain number of years that they are entitled to a certain respect and treatment. And to me personally, that's been something growing up in an area like that. That's always, regardless of and that has nothing to do with race or anything. That's just I've always been disgusted by that.
I I'm not sure that's just to your area. I think that is a human thing where um, people believe simply because they have experience that translate the wisdom. So I talk about this often where wisdom does not come from experience. Wisdom comes from reflection on experience. We all know a guy who's been running into a wall every day his whole life. He's not learning from it. He keeps doing the same exact thing.
Yeah.
And if we're more honest, we've all been that person for shorter periods of time. So we have to stop saying that wisdom comes from experience. It comes from reflection on experience. You got guys that have been working for 40 years. They've been in the job market for 40 years and they don't have a penny to their name. But if they find out you just won the lottery, they're going to give you some advice. Let me
Yeah.
tell you. Let
Yeah.
me tell you something, kid. Here's what you should do with that money. Now, this is not to say that they haven't reflected on their losses and can tell you something, but you can't assume simply because they have been working for 40 years that they have something to contribute.
Yeah, very true. And especially when it comes to just people literally being part of something, basically, like you're saying, just because they've been working for however long, or just because, oh, I've been on this, I was on the team last year. What do you mean? Blah 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 blah, all that kind of stuff. And I think respect is something that should be given to then be returned.
So let me ask you then. So you went to college for basketball, right?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
I
What?
wouldn't say I went for basketball. I actually didn't really get a whole lot of time to play in high school, and I had to. I walked on and then became the starting point guard and like MVP and shit like that. It was weird. It was a weird story because I shouldn't have. By I guess my coach's standpoint, should not have even made the team.
So let me ask you then. Maybe I'm making a bad assumption, but was this a mostly black team?
Oh yeah,
Okay. So do you feel that that experience is a portion of who you are today?
most definitely, most definitely, for a lot of reasons too. For a lot of reasons. I grew like during those that time. Um, I lived out in Janesville. I got my own apartment with a friend of mine that went to school there with me, and we were the only two white kids. Well, no, there was one other white kid that made the team and played, and then two other ones that the coach kept for the practice squad, and the whole rest of the team. And it's usually a 15-man roster, so 12 of the 15 guys that were actually on the team were black, and then we had an extra couple of white guys that were practice squad on top of that, other than myself and my friend that was my roommate, and then one other guy that's from Janesville.
So were there any like interesting or awkward social things where they're like asking you things about white people or something like that?
And and no, there wasn't really, to be honest with you. I mean, I had friends. I was once so when I had first showed up the first day of tryouts, obviously that we go through a whole workout, and then the coach would have everybody scrimmage at the end so he could just see how everyone played. And obviously, if you're watching a 5'10", I mean, I'm a strong guy, but it's not like I'm huge, physically imposing guy. I don't have a ridiculous vertical or something like that. So you're just seeing this 5'10" white guy doing drills. You're like, okay, he knows how to play basketball, but like, what can he do? So of course, both myself and my friend, we didn't get picked for the first games of the scrimmage, but everyone had to play because it was tryouts because the coach had to make a decision, obviously. So we get into the next game with the three other worst guys that were trying out, and we proceeded to just destroy everybody. Every single didn't lose a game. We won 8 games in a row, and then the coach called me in the office and he was like, "What the hell is your name?" And we have that conversation, and from that point on, a lot of my friends from Janesville referred to me. They were like, "Oh, you're the coldest white dude I know." Whenever we'd be on the court, and it was the funniest shit.
So I find that you can sometimes use racial assumptions to your favor.
Hmm.
So I wrestled, and I wrestled in Virginia.
And I don't know a lot of black guys that wrestle. I'll just
Exactly.
straight up don't know a lot of black guys that wrestle.
Exactly. That's where I'm going with this. Now there are quite a few, but my point is where I was at, that was a white kid sport. So there was this assumption that I don't know what I'm doing.
Mm,
I am pretty confident that I won a lot of tournaments, or I won when I should not have won because they underestimated me.
true. Yeah.
Not because I was better, because they did not give their opponent the proper respect. And I think that kind of ties back to what we're seeing today, where if racism doesn't work to even your favor. Yes, you're doing something to somebody, but let's say I'm playing against you and I want to make the team. I'm like, this white boy, he's not going to be nothing. I don't do myself any favors either by disrespecting you.
Yeah.
Because I don't go in 100%, you then make me look stupid. Now I'm all emotional. Now my ego's caught up in it. I'm slipping up. I'm making mistakes. So you you don't do yourself any favors by assuming these things. You really don't.
Yeah, that's a no. That's a I've never heard it put that way, and that's a really good take actually, because I'm sure there yeah that people don't understand that when you under I who said I thought somebody had said something similar to that. It was in the civil rights movement, but it's um yeah it's these people, these white people, and I guess not even just white people, but other people that will discredit somebody just by the way they look or what they think they know about them, not even how they look. And because of that, then they don't do what they should be doing. They're not taking these steps to make themselves better. And it could be, it doesn't have to be making a team or even um, working out for a job. It could just be taking care of their business, taking care of their life. And I feel like a lot of people, like you said, it doesn't do them any favors to not.
Well, let's talk diversity, diversity initiatives rather. You'll hear a certain type of man, usually it's a man, talking about all this PC crap, this feel good stuff, trying to false fake in the world through or something like that. Diversity to me is not something you do because you're nice. Diversity to me is a survival tactic. Think about it. You're running a business. Everything goes global. You either go big or you go home.
Yeah.
So if you are not going to respect, if you are not going to assume you need to know women to sell to women, you don't need to know minorities to sell to minorities. And I just assume I need to know everybody to sell. Who's going to win?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So I remember I was on a panel and they asked the question, when you hear about a firm or a business owner that doesn't appreciate or respect diversity initiatives, what do you think? That was the question. How do you feel about that? What do you do? And my response was, I love it. Whenever I hear about a business that says that is bunk, we don't need to worry about that, that is stupid, I get excited because that's one less person I have to deal with for competition. They might not go out of business today, but they're going down. And if they don't go down, they're just going to be in some small little stagnant water place because you can't go anywhere in this world anymore with technology if you are not willing to be what the customers all want. So diversity is not oh, I'm doing this because I'm a nice person. If you're going to put together a team, if you want to survive, have women on that team, have people from different backgrounds on that team. You should be scared if your whole team is everyone who's like you and from where you're from. You don't know who's going to take you out, but a more diverse team is going to take you out.
Oh, exactly, because they have differing life experiences, different skills and traits to them that they all bring. And I think that especially you serving in the military and just from my experience of playing sports, it's obvious you've got on a basketball team you've got your guy that can rebound. That's all he. Then that's what he is. He's best at rebounding. You've got your guy that scores, the guy that brings the ball up, all these type of things, and without those different skill sets, then what do you really have?
You got nothing. I don't care if you have and it I don't care if you have 20, 30 guys that are all the best three-point shooters in the world. You do not have a team.
Exactly. Yeah.
And this is what people are not realizing. Now, if you're going through a three-point shootout, sure, yeah, you guys are fire. But that's what, once a year? And
Yeah.
that's not even by itself. That's part of the All-Star Jam. So
Yeah.
what are we talking about here? So why, I think I told you I go under the banner solutionary tech and data. I really feel that technology is playing, not that it's a person, but it's a tool that's really bringing a lot of this to fruition, you know, because before, yeah, you could delude yourself into thinking small fish or big fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
Or let's talk about the things we're seeing right now in real time, where we might have heard about what happened in Minneapolis back in the 60s, but it would have been days later, as it became national news.
Yeah.
Now you're seeing it, unfortunately, live in real time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gross. It's horrifying in a lot of ways, but in like how kind of going back to how you said it earlier, it's not that you're happy that these things are going on, but it is like a hopefulness that because of the technology that's at our disposal and because of the way that we're all connected, that these things can be shown and shared to us in an instant.
The reactions, like I said, we see the varied reactions. So, um, it's not my personal technique to burn down half the city.
Yeah.
But having said that, humans are humans, so this is not the first time humans have been violent or anything like that. I'm one of the people who says I won't I won't tell people. Actually, let's back it up. You're seeing the memes. Let's talk about the memes. Um,
What's the worst meme that you've been seeing?
oh, the worst meme?
Worst, and then we'll get into some other ones.
I think it's more of a category. A
Okay.
category. So the worst category of memes for me are when you are willing to sacrifice something that you claim is sacred to do something else. So what does that look like? You are willing to misuse the service of veterans to say that someone else shouldn't be speaking. So I say I want to feed the homeless, and you say we shouldn't feed a single homeless person until we fed every veteran. Here's the thing: you don't give a shit about veterans. You're just using them as a tool to justify not feeding homeless. Why not feed both, bro?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or with this shooting, you may have seen that there was a retired police officer that was killed out in St. Louis, I think. Retired police officer,
Was
black
he
guy,
the okay, yeah. Yeah, I did see him.
named Dorn, I believe. Dorn.
Mhm.
So you now see this meme of their pictures side by side, George Floyd in his rap sheet, and in this retired police officer, he served all this time and he got killed. And it's like, where's his funeral? Where's his national funeral? So that is the lowest to me, to where you claim to respect service and people who serve, but you are twisting that man's memory to become a weapon to attack someone else.
Yeah.
So for me personally, um, that is the lowest form of honor. That is the lowest form of integrity, to where you're basically showing nothing sacred to you other than your biases. Your bias
Yeah.
is your bias is your God, and are a you are a zealot. You will do anything for your God. You will strap on a vest. You will destroy everything you know and love. You will turn your back on everything, including reason, in order to serve your God, this idol of yours, this golden calf that is bias. And that's what you're seeing right now today, where nothing matters. The fact that Candace Owens is getting so much play right now is a testament to false gods
Oh
and
yeah.
how powerful they are.
Yeah, she is somebody that is just it's hard to listen to her. I don't even know. She's literally just a con artist. I mean, that's basically what she is.
But you got to respect the hustle. She's good.
I mean, I respect her for making. She's definitely made some money. She's definitely doing her thing, getting plays, like you said, getting clicks. But it's, I mean, at what cost? And if it was the other way around, if everything flipped on its head today, and it was the exact opposite, she would completely everything that she stands for would change just to get those same clicks.
She tells people what they want to hear. She tells a certain group of people what they want to hear.
Oh yeah, I
I
saw
mean,
the meme that you well, meme. Sorry to cut you off, but a different meme that people will be showing the two twins. I forget their names, and Candace Owens, and it was
yeah.
and I had some friends of mine share it, and it was like, please stop using these videos as your reasoning to back up your already racist point of view.
I say do what you want to do. I want to know who you are. Again, I'm a military guy. I like it when my enemy puts on a uniform and goes out in broad daylight. I don't like it when you hide amongst the population and I got to guess who you are. So for me, do it. If Candace Owens is your vibe, say it loud and proud. Put your Trump hat on, Tell me about, you know, do that. Have you listened to Candace Owens? Ask me, have I read Ben Carson's book? Ask me, what do I think of Thomas Sowell? Do all those, check all those boxes for me. Ask me, have I read all of Bill O'Reilly's books?
Oh God.
Um, yeah, I love it when you do that, because now, thank you for wearing your uniform, because you're making it very clear that you skipped over the thousands of black people because we're brainwashed. You know, we don't know what we're thinking. The
Mm-hmm.
Democrats got us.
Oh God.
But you found a couple black people who said what you wanted them to say. That's smart right there.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
so what do we do here? Here's a question then. As you know, with the going with the analogy of using that as, you know, when your enemy is now wearing their uniform, you know, what would you say to do? Would you say to just allow these people to think these delusional thoughts, or would you want to do you want to try and engage these people? Because I feel that's where I've been very stressed out personally, in the sense that, like, I don't want to go to the supermarket and be there with people that think that that's okay. And like, I don't want, like, it doesn't matter who's in office or who isn't in office, but I don't want to live in a place where these people, and I don't want to coexist with these people that are just downright disgusting. It's different if it's a different point of view. If you want to talk about who's getting taxed what, that's fine. But when we're talking about, like, human life and people's civil rights, that's where, like, I'm like truly scared. I don't see a way that this ends right now currently.
so I have two mindsets that take me to the same place. First, I'm a Christian, so no matter how much I dislike people, my God tells me deal with it. So that's number one. You know, I keep checking the book every day to see if he's giving me different instructions. Like, can I just say screw everybody?
Yeah.
But so far the letters haven't changed in there. So I'm told I'm told to engage. Now, does that mean try to save strippers in the strip club? No, but I am told to engage, to have connection, and not so much outside, but from a separate angle. All this lone wolf, lone gun, Rambo, I'm my own man, I'm an island talk. I've heard the talk. I haven't seen any evidence that this is what humans are designed for, to be alone and on your own. I look at this country, you know, we talk about our problems, but there's still so much that's been done that's good, and there's still so much potential. I can't think of much that was done in unison, that's somebody off on their own. So I find there's a lot of false narratives about what it means to be, um, even just a citizen. You know, just take care of yourself. What are you talking about? You built your own road? I'm not trying to churn my own butter. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
There's this narrative that society, because it has detriments and side effects and adverse parts to it, it as a whole has no good. Um, and I just don't see how my life would be better, at least the life I want, if I was out in the woods playing Jeremiah Johnson, you know, building my log cabin and everything. I just don't see it. I think there's a narrative that is kind of like pornography, where, you know, you can watch pornography all day, but doesn't make you better at the deed. There's a lot of people watching this lone gunman Rambo pornography, but it doesn't make you more independent. Doesn't make you more of a tough guy. Shoot, man, I'm watching guys that watch every MMA fight, still can't fight to save their damn lives.
Yeah.
So I think it's necessary for us to start considering being more honest with each other. Um, you just said something here where you said, you know, what 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 should we do regarding it? I don't think it's our place to. I think we owe everyone, even these people we're talking about, we owe them legal tolerance, and we owe them social tolerance. So I don't think we can ask the government to put them in jail. I don't think we should even vote for it.
No, yeah,
And
nothing like that.
I don't think we should make them take the long walk out into the ice. I don't think we should run them out of town.
Mm-hmm.
I think what me and you were talking about right now is we don't owe them intellectual tolerance. Say what you got to say. Let Candace Owens speak. That's her right. But Facebook doesn't owe her or Alex Jones a platform. So you probably saw that. All their rights are being violated. No, they weren't. And we don't owe them because they have an opinion saying things like all opinions are equal. That's crap. All opinions are not equal.
Yeah, most
So
definitely. Yeah.
so I think that's where we draw the line. Say what you got to say. We will not stand by the government coming for you. We will not stand by the village coming for you. But if you are an idiot and someone feels the need to label you so, we're not going to tell them they can't. We are not going to tell the next generation that Candace Owens and Barack Obama are equal.
Oh
We're
yeah.
not going to do that.
That's a good no. That's a good way to put it because it's something like I was saying before that's just been stressing me out, especially in where I guess I'm from is just people's closed-mindedness to something like that, to the fact that, and that's why I made a joke in my last video that it's 2020 and not 1820, and black people have rights and white people have cameras, and that was like my joke because it was these people in a town like this or in towns, there's tons of them all over the US that are just like this one, where they don't have any diversity, they don't know any better, and they think that they're in this bubble where they can do whatever they want, they can drive home drunk and act like shit to their wife and all these other things, and that's fine. You want to do all that, okay, but don't be mad that now it's on camera. And that was my whole thing with the video that I did. It wasn't to publicly shame anybody, but it's just like, here's what you were doing at this time. Now, however other people feel about it, okay. But I was there and I was subject to it, so now I recorded it.
See, I don't understand how people will share things that other people have written or done and they'll scratch their name out. My attitude is once you send it, bro, it's out there.
Hmm.
So I have never had any issue. I will show who it is, what you are. There's a husband and wife couple here in Kenosha, the Osgoods. I mean, they're putting out hateful, nasty stuff to the world. So I don't think I owe them not mentioning their name.
Hmm.
I'm saying, say it loud. Whatever you are, put it out there, and I will help you get your message out there. That
Hmm.
I was in the bar business for a little while, and the bars would compete. And one of the ways you competed was having half off drinks, and then you're basically cutting each other's throats. You keep going cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. So one day, me and my boys were like, "This is crazy. How even if we win by going out of business."
Hmm.
So what we started doing, we stopped doing drink-free nights, but all the other bars, we started promoting their drink-free nights. So think about it. You have a place that can fit maybe 100 people. You're promoting for your drink-free night. I'm promoting for your drink-free night. 400 people show up. Only 100 can get in. So you gave away drinks to 100, and then 300 talk trash about you online. We started doing this every week, saying if you want to give away all your stuff, we're going to help you give away your stuff. Till finally, some of the bar owners came to us and said, okay, truce. And that's when we started having a real conversation. We're just like, we can't, no one is winning. What are we doing? We're like gonna see whose money is the longest and just give away stuff.
Yeah,
It
who has
was,
got the most free stuff?
but not everyone was good for it, and that's what we did. If you're gonna give away your alcohol, if you're gonna give away your business, I'm not gonna pay people to beat you. I'm not gonna pay people to drink at my place to beat you. I'm just gonna tell everyone about you that wants to go there because I know there's a certain type of person that it's not worth it for them to go to a bar and drink for free when they're being squeezed in by all these types of people. Because think about it, what type of people need to go out for drink free night? It's like they're like, you know what, that's cool and all, but no, I'll just pay for a beer. I'll
Hmm.
just pay for a beer. So coming back to you know how people they do these things and they think you owe them something. I just don't get it in today's technology. And they all have cell phones. I guarantee you, everyone who's mad at you, they have a smartphone.
Oh yeah.
So they know. So this is not like some 85-year-old guy with a jitterbug who's like, how did you do that magic? No, they know what smartphones are. So
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
I think probably what you're engaging, because I saw you did your video and I saw the comments on it. And I think you saw me commenting on some people even.
I did, yeah, I did.
So I was watching the reactions to your video, and I saw a lot of people with a lot of interesting ideas on their privacy rights. That's what I saw. Again, I always try to bring it back to data and technology. I
Hmm.
saw a lot of interesting ideas about privacy rights. So you see it on Facebook where that person writes that little post that I give no rights to Facebook for using any of my stuff. Stupid. You're wasting your time. Yes, you did. The moment you got on there, you did.
Hmm.
So when people are saying, no, take my image down, you sound like old school Indians mad because you took their photo and you think they took your soul. Like, that's not how this works. You put it out there, you go out in public. That's how it is. I mean, it's to the point Supreme Court has even spoken on this. Not that that's a definitive thing, but it's interesting. How can you claim privacy when you're doing it in public? And
Yeah.
this is debated, but that's what I saw people doing to you. I have the right to act a certain way in public without it being persisted forever. That's really what they were saying to you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's definitely true. And it's I mentioned it even in the video that, like, it's fine if you guys want to do that in public, like you were saying almost earlier, where it's like, fine, if you want to put on your uniform so that I know who you are, then that's fine. But you're out in the world doing it. You're out publicly protesting a public protest. So
Now,
now it's on video.
I'm a hardliner when it comes to digital privacy and stuff like that, where I say if you do it in public, it now belongs to the public. They don't owe you destroying it. Let's say before videos and cameras, you maybe acted a fool in the bar, okay? And the people that were in the bar, they saw it. And maybe
Hmm.
it affected you a certain period of time, but as time went on, that story left as time moved forward. Now with video, tweets and everything, something you said offhand years ago, it's there as if you said it today. It can be brought up as if you said it today. We saw that with Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
Um, so there is, I don't agree with the argument, but I believe it's a valid argument when people say this affects people growing and living life. If you make a mistake at 18, it can follow you the rest of your life. You've probably seen. Did you see the Marquette student who had the lacrosse scholarship was saying the racist things about Lloyd, lost her scholarship?
Oh, I didn't. No.
Yeah,
Wow.
so that happened this week. I want to no last week. We just started this week. So
Hmm.
last week she lost her scholarship. So you're seeing these people doing things, or maybe you saw the lady who called the cops on the man who was using chalk to write Black Lives Matter
Yeah.
on his own retaining wall house.
Yeah.
So she lost her job. I mean, this is how crazy it is. She lost her job. Her partner lost her job. So imagine your girlfriend or wife doing something crazy. You both lose your jobs. That's what happened.
Jesus.
Now,
Yeah.
some people are saying, wow, someone makes a mistake and they can't shake that mistake. It goes with them the rest of their life. I'm like, other than the fact they made a choice, that's what it's like being black. I didn't choose to be black. No matter where I go, it goes with me. Now, just like them, some people are going to treat them a certain way because of it, and some people are not.
Hmm.
And they're going to maybe spend the rest of their life wondering who knows, who doesn't know, who cares, who doesn't care. So I find a karmic twist in what's happening right now, where if you are racist and you do it on camera and you're identified, you basically get this scarlet letter that is putting you in a, how do we say this? It puts you in a marginalized class.
Hmm.
So if you are, so I am in a marginalized class. I do very well for myself as an individual, but I live in a country that does not allow me to be an individual. I am black first. Technology is leveling the game, in my opinion. Through the younger generations, through progressives, and through technology, they're saying, we agree with you, old schoolers. You can't change someone's heart, but we can change your life trajectory for income and success and getting jobs and getting into school. Where before you could be a racist and you would never expect it to affect your college scholarship. Now you have to think about it, or you don't and live with the consequences afterwards.
Yeah.
So for me, when people say, "Oh, so you just want to change people's hearts," I take the MLK approach. Martin Luther King said, um, "Sure, we might not change people's hearts, but we can pass some laws and change some people's behavior. Unless you just want to go to jail, then be gangster about it. If you are okay with your children losing scholarships and you losing your job, if racism, if posting that meme, because that's what she did, if posting that meme means that much to you, follow your path."
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's something even not, race related. That's you see that a lot. I feel like I've seen that who was that there was I think it was he was from Notre Dame, maybe the linebacker a few years back, was getting drafted. I think he ended up going to the Chargers, but his draft stock went way down because of like him pretending to have a girlfriend or something. He had like
Oh, you're talking about the kid from Hawaii, right?
yes, yeah. It was something Teo, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Matt Teo, I don't know, something like that. And he, the
I
same
forgot
thing.
about that story.
Yeah, and his draft stock dropped considerably because he did that, and it was like you just said, like why is that? Why was that so important to you to do? Like why did you need to do that? And I don't know the whole specifics of that story, but it's in general you're seeing this like a lot more, and um, that's where I'm seeing people that it's like, why do you really need to show everybody this? And with
See,
everything else going on that you have going on, that
now
that's going on.
I think I think this is a place where left of center goes off the rails. I think this, we've beat up on the right pretty well for this conversation. This is a place where I think left of center messes up. I had a buddy, so a military buddy of mine, a lot of us military guys who come from military families. So his father was also military. And after his father's military time, he went FBI. So this guy did his military time, career FBI agent. And I was talking to him, and he was working organized crime, Eastern European organized crime. And I asked him, how do you do this? How do you do this job? Because he was talking about how a lot of people burn out. They don't last very long. It's kind of like social work. The average social worker does not last longer than 3 to 5 years. It's just mentally draining.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, but you've done 20 something years. How did you do 20 years when other guys can't go 3 or 5 in this line of work? And he said, I learned to stop asking why. He said, there's certain things that people do that are just so heinous and so bad that no answer will make it right for you. Even if there is an answer, there's certain things that people do that you go, why? And they tell you why. You're not going to be like, oh, okay. You're not, it's just not going to be that way. So he said, you just can't ask why with certain things. So I find that a lot of things that people do, they don't even know why. They really don't know why. So I think that's a lot of it. Lack of reflection, what we were talking about earlier today. You're not thinking things through. You just posted it because your friends posted it. It doesn't even make sense when someone asks you, why did you do that? Like, why?
Yeah, when you say it out loud, then they're like, oh shit.
Right. Have you ever done that to anybody where they say something and you say what they said right back to them, and then they realize how stupid it sounds?
Oh yeah, or you just like someone will have said something ridiculous a couple of days prior, and then it's a few days later, and now it's the reverse situation, and you say it to them, and they're like, wait, what? Oh, that's why you were not understanding what I was saying, and yeah, it's mind blowing sometimes, but that's a really good way to put it. I never thought about it like that, to just really not like that because that happens all the time when you do figure out the reason why. And for some reason, you're digging to uncover this why. And then, like you said, when you do, it's not it's not worth it. You're like, wow, I still can't see how you got from A to B.
Right. I mean, there's this another myth that humans are rational. If we were rational, all of us would save 40% of our check once we get it. We all know to save money for a rainy day. That's the rational thing to do. In reality, Americans have a negative savings rate. So that's why you have this entire branch called behavioral economics that doesn't talk about what people should be. It talks about what people are. We are, as Dan Ariely says, predictably irrational to the point you can predict us being irrational. I can predict that on average, if I give an American a paycheck, they're going to spend more than that paycheck. They're going to tell a credit company that they have a paycheck, get a credit card, spend the money, and run up the card. I can predict that on average. That's where we're at. And I can do this by culture. I can predict that if someone comes from mainland China, even if they live here in the US, they are going to save minimum, on average, 20% of their paycheck. They're not even going to think about touching it. So as we get into these subsets of the population, that's really what we're coming down to. Which patterns are real and which ones are not? You know, like a lot, you'll hear again with the left, oh, stereotypes are bad. No, they're not. We're humans. That's how we got out of, that's how we survived in the jungle. That's how we survived classifying, putting things in boxes. It's a survival mechanism. The question is, are your boxes real? Is the box that most black people don't have their dad when they grow up, is that box real? Is the box that most people, black people, are on welfare, or they're not as good, or that women are not as good at math and science, is that box real? Because if these boxes are not real, you then have to ask yourself, what is the usefulness of a box that isn't real? How does it help you?
Yeah. No, that's a really good. That just kind of blew my mind for a second there. I really did, really did.
Again, I'm a data scientist, so I mean, just bringing it back to this. At the end of the day, I am trying to identify one. Is there a pattern? What do we all want to know? We want to know the future, right?
Yeah.
So let's go through the steps. You know, statistics. I hate how schools teach statistics. I really hate. They make it sound so horrible. But statistics is step one. You want to know what happened. Ideally, what happened? Step two, what's going on right now? Diagnostic check. Step three, given the evidence we have, what will happen? And then the big bad one, step four, prescriptive analytics. Given what we know and what we think can happen, what can we do to possibly change the future? Those are the four steps. What happened, what's happening, what will happen, and what can I do to change it? Statistics teachers do not say that to people, because basically you should be saying, today we're going to learn how to control the future. Like, whoa.
That would
okay,
intrigue a
let's do
hell
it.
of a lot more people than what they do now.
Yeah. Instead, they're like, welcome to the eighth circle. It's like, come on, bro.
Sell it a little bit. They need a little salesman blood in them.
Yeah. So when we're talking about this for patterns, what's real and what's not real? Let's get that out of the way first. So you mentioned the black on black crime meme. What's the other meme we just talked about? The Dorner left and right.
Oh yeah.
You didn't give me yours. What's one of the ones you've seen?
I think one of the worst ones. Oh, what was one of the? I'm trying to think of one of the worst ones. That
Or
I've seen.
popular. If you can't think of a worse one, what's a popular one you just keep seeing?
Right now I keep seeing a whole lot about the Confederate flag and why it's sacred and it should be flown everywhere and whatnot. So and the arguments for those, my take on it is because these people will say it's a part of our history. Americans died for blah 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 blah, and to
That's
that
the top three.
and and in response to that, I have kind of two responses to that, and one is that what are the three things that it stands for? If you really think about it, it stands for and these are the people that are super patriotic, or at least they say they are. It stands for leaving that country that you love so much, wanting to not be a part of this country, the ownership of slaves, and losers. That's like in general three concepts that when I see that flag, that's what it means to me. And I don't know how these people are viewing that as, oh, this is just history, and they'll say that and they'll say that until they're blue in the face. But then I don't hear any Germans, and I know this. We had German exchange students and whatnot come to our school all the time, and they learn. They learn just like how we learn about the Civil War. They learn about Hitler's Nazi Germany. They're not flying the swastika flag and saying, well, it's part of history. Germans died for this flag. We should be celebrating this flag. Now, I think, there's a debate maybe in what would be worse, but I think, the ownership, abusing people's lives just to build your infrastructure and your country upon it, I think it's pretty disgusting.
So I argue I think it's about what you're trying to accomplish. So if you're trying to name them, I say you name them perfectly. If you're seeing if there's any hope for reaching them, it usually doesn't. I've had little experience with declaring what they are. So when I have someone say it's about history, the statues, I ask that question first. I go, the Civil War itself or the statue itself? Because we're talking about taking down a statue. We're not talking about erasing the Civil War out of the history books. So I get them into that box. It's about the statues. I then ask, what do you know about the statues? Because what I find is most people don't know that the majority of these statues were put up between 1890 and 1950, two waves. So the first one was once the North pulled out of Reconstruction. This was Jim Crow era saying we're taking back, and we want them to know we're here. So that was the first wave. The second wave was during the Civil Rights Movement. These things just started going up all over. So I find a lot of people are under the impression that these things were put up around the Civil War time, which makes no sense if you think about it. But again, They haven't thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I say, fine, let's talk history. So I'll just go through this mental exercise with people where I say, okay, what if we keep it up, but we build right next to it one twice as big explaining what it is? Would you support that? Well, taxpayer dollars. So basically, you see it moving the hurdle, keep going down the line where the point is getting the person to be honest. I'm not trying to change who you are, but at a minimum, have some intellectual integrity. Say, I don't even know, but I need it. Don't say we need it for history. Put it this way, there was no statues for the things that I'm speaking right now.
Yeah.
You can find the history if you want it. You need that flag. One of my favorite memes actually floating around. It's the voicing of a right of center person saying, well, it was the Democrats who were actually the slave owners, Dixie Democrats.
I did see this one. Yeah, I did see this one.
So it says, the statues belong to them. They're the ones who put them up. And the response is from the Democrats, great, we'll tear them all down now. And then the Republicans like, no, my heritage.
Yeah.
Oh, no. So, and that's really what it is. You want it both ways. Mm-hmm. You want to say, no, those racist statues got nothing to do with my team. Great, we're going to melt them all down. No.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, we don't celebrate. We don't celebrate that kind of stuff. That's the other guys. And then, okay, well, then we're not going to celebrate it. Whoa. Calm down. Come on.
So but think about that. Coming back to idols and false gods, for you to react in such a way to the statue, because no one's talking about striking the civil rights from the book. If anything, people are talking about putting in the parts of the Civil War and Reconstruction that have been left out. I find it amazing, on average, how little Americans know about Reconstruction. If you want to, even immigration. Usually when we talk about immigration, people just know about Mexicans. From 1890 to 1920, how that shaped this country. I personally sit there in awe when I'm talking to an Italian American or an Irish American, and they have these hardline stances on immigration. And it's like, statistically, if you had any clue what your people went through from 1890 to 1920, what was done to them, and how it took 2 generations for them to be accepted, And then for you to take that gift and treat someone else the way your ancestors were treated. It but they just don't know. You hear them saying, "Well, I'm okay if you come in legally." You did not come in legally. And I'm not talking about the Indians back at the Mayflower. If you are Irish American, German American, Italian American, statistically, your people did not come in legally. They shut down Ellis Island in 14. Your people kept coming, bro. You
I'm
kept coming.
Italian and Irish, so that's funny. I had no idea actually, no idea about that, and that's funny that you mentioned that you find it surprising that so many people don't. We learned about the Civil War almost every single year from when like we were in fourth grade up until maybe my junior year in high school, and I don't think maybe other than once did we talk about Reconstruction.
We didn't talk. You don't talk about Reconstruction. You don't talk about immigration. So, like, why does Wisconsin look the way it looks? We don't talk about how the Scandinavians and how, all those different countries and Eastern Europeans came up here, and how Wisconsin was actually one of the first places in the country where you started having multi-ethnic labor unions and multi-ethnic churches. So, the Swedish and the Norwegians would share a church. This is one of those earlier places you see that. So you see this form of brotherly love, provided that we could almost look like brothers. So at the same time this was being done, it was still for blacks being told, move along. Even how we talk about Mexicans right now and Mexican Americans. Were you taught in high school how almost 500,000 Mexican American US citizens were sent back to, not back, they were born in America. They were US citizens. They were rounded up in buses and bussed across the border to Mexico and just dropped off. This happened in the 30s. Did
Yeah,
you ever
no,
hear
that
about that?
never spoken of, never.
So basically, the market crash, everything's going bad, and this is what white folks decided to do. They started looking around and saying, the economy's bad. What are we gonna do? And they're like, now notice everyone's unemployed, but
Yeah,
they go, look at all these damn Mexicans laying around, and it was pushed as an illegal immigration thing, but lowball estimates are 350,000 U.S. citizens, up to 500,000 U.S. citizen Mexican Americans were loaded up, rounded up by police, by army, and just dropped off in Mexico. Imagine that. Would you say you're Irish? You said
I'm Irish and Italian, mostly Italian.
imagine being rounded up by the government and just dropped off in Ireland.
Yeah, that'd be
That's
pretty
what we did.
ridiculous. Pretty ridiculous.
So so when people talk about we're okay with it as long as it's legal, no, you're not. Your father wasn't, your grandfather wasn't, and your great grandfather wasn't. You've always done this style. You're just doing it a different way. And I think that's what we need to start doing. We need to start sharing the information, and we need to start putting it out there. The way Candace Owens is putting out her stuff, let her speak. But we need to start saying those things. One thing I probably say 50 times a day, when you hear Republicans talking about how Dixiecrats and all that stuff, ask them two questions. Who is Lee Atwater and what is the Southern strategy? Shuts it down every single time. Lee Atwater was one of the principal architects of the Southern strategy, and the Southern strategy was we, the Republicans, are not doing very well when it comes to getting votes. We need to steal, we need to take the racist white voter from the Democrats and win them over to us. So this was a campaign beginning under Nixon to take the Democratic racist white man and get him to become a Republican. It worked so well that Lee Atwater did he did a video recording bragging about how well it worked. They never hoped for it. They said, listen, we're never going to get the black vote. We're never going to get it. But I think we can get this white voter. So that's when you started seeing this narrative of black men raping white women, of black men taking jobs, because, and that's why I'm amazed when black people are pro wall. They're like, well, they're going to take our jobs. Like, you realize you were the Mexican 30 years ago, right? For the Republican Party, you were the Mexican 30, 40 years ago. So that's what they talk about. Blacks are going to take your jobs and everything. So as the Democrats became more diverse, the Republicans used that. They weaponized it to get that white voter who was scared of that And that's what happened from Nixon all the way through Reagan. You know, welfare queen. I'm sure you heard about
Oh yeah,
that.
yeah.
This was all part of their structure. To where now, because it's not openly taught, they're leveraging people's ignorance to where because they won't be forward about that. You will run into a Republican, they will name every Dixiecrat politician that was a Democrat. But it's a magic trick where it wasn't about the politician. It was about the people who put the politician in the office. Republicans said, keep the politicians, Democrats. We just want the voter. And that's what happened.
That's
Lee Atwater.
that's it's interesting that you say that. Did you see I don't know if you watched the Breakfast Club at all, but I love the Breakfast Club and Charlemagne the God especially. And did you see his interview with Joe Biden?
Oh yeah. I mean I had to, otherwise I would have lost my black card.
That's yeah, according to Joe Biden, and it brought something up to me that it's that I think Charlemagne has voiced several times in recent years that it's like the Republican Party is not trying to pretend that they're for black people. Like they're not trying to pretend that, but Democrats, and this is why I think Charlemagne was trying to ask Joe, what are you going to do for the black vote, for black people? And he didn't have a good response. And I think a lot of Democrats will just say and try, like they use that they're pandering to them, and then they won't actually, when they get in office, do anything for these people.
Well, so I let me first say I understand where Charlemagne's coming from, but there's some things I would push back on. Democrats are open with what you call identity politics. They go after demographics. Republicans do the same thing, they just don't say it. It's kind of like a person who says, I don't like religion. But I argue that I never met anyone that doesn't have a religion. Your religion might be money. Your religion might be yourself. There's a lot of people who think because their religion doesn't have a book, it's not a religion. If you're a materialistic guy who lies to women and does whatever you got to do to get what you want, and then once you have it, you forget it, that's a religion, bro. So Republicans, again, so the Republicans did a couple things with the Southern strategy. They also took a good sprinkling of libertarianism. So libertarians came up around this time too, right? They started in the 40s, but they started getting traction. So libertarians came up, and Republicans heard the libertarian approach, and they're like, I like this, this, and this. The parts they liked was everybody for themselves. You know, everybody should take care of themselves. So what the official stance on racism for the Republicans after that point was, we are 100% against formal institutional racism. So laws for racism. Equally so, we are 100% against any legislation mitigating racism. So what Republicans have been doing since the 60s is saying, we're not going to hurt you, but we're not going to help. We're not going to make the problem worse, but we are not going to engage the problem. And that's where you see in this Republican narrative of the best thing you can do for a person is just to leave them alone. Here's the problem. They started defunding inner city programs, but they didn't defund white programs, white neighborhoods. Like even with business, Nixon would go on and, Nixon's like, I love the black power, letting them work for themselves, give them the power to do that. So he set up all these offices in the cities across America for teaching people how to write business plans. If we just get out of their way, they can take care of themselves. So you have these all over the country. Learn how to write a business plan. You know what didn't come with those business plan write-up centers? Money into those neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Now, SBA kept funneling money everywhere else in the country, but these were blackout zones. So while the white neighborhoods were getting FHA loans, VA loans, GI bills, easy credit, we were getting business plans. And you see that narrative a lot, not just but minorities, but the poor. Oh, the poor don't have money? Let's teach them how to budget. It's this assumption that whatever their situation is in, it's because of them.
Yeah. And I think it's, I what it's something to me that is kind of on top of that with it's how can you think like that is what I'm saying is how can you think that it's because of them when those people were literally, I mean, America's like stolen land in a sense. We used stolen people, forced them to create basically all of America, and then we forced them to live in ghettos and over police these very small areas, and it's just one layer after another, a different way to make sure that they don't have the full controller. They don't have all the buttons on their controller, and I do. And
That's what we say that in my family. We say that ever since we stopped working for free, America's been telling us we're the laziest people in America. The moment we stopped being slaves, suddenly we became lazy. It's hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's gross because the people that were considered to be these great businessmen and these great entrepreneurs would not have had shit had it not be for free labor.
And look what happened. Look at the South. To this very day, it still hasn't caught up. That's where we kind of get into protectionism. Trump was going to tariff our way to prosperity. If it's no different than if our parents protect us to where we never have to do our homework. So instead of us doing our homework, our mom just goes into class and flips out on the teacher so they give us an A. So we just keep going through the grades. But then eventually our mom's not there and we don't know anything and we're dumb as hell. So protectionism gets you through the short term, but it makes you weak. And that's what you see here right now. You see this weakness that's coming out where people, like even this economic stuff, when I'll tell you another one too. You remember, you probably heard about the housing market crash.
Yes.
People jumping out of windows and stuff like that.
Oh, I didn't know that. No, I had no idea about that.
Oh yeah. People committing suicide, jumping out of windows. No black people were jumping out of windows, bro. No black people were jumping out of windows because now they're poor. Black people were like, oh, okay, so it's just another day. All right, bet. So whatever. Like, it's a different mentality of where if you're just given everything, and not only are you given everything, you were told that you earned it. And that's what you're saying. You were given things and you were told you earned it. Even citizenship, to look down on a Mexican, even if they are illegal, even if you watch them crawl across the dirt, to look down on them and to say you don't belong, the balls that takes. You did not row across that river with George Washington. You were not there fighting back the redcoats. You won the cosmic lottery. You did nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Literally nothing, yeah.
And the majority, because only 3% of Americans have done civil service or government service, I think maybe 4%. So the majority of us, even after the fact, have not even tried to do something to get back. Now, what does the guy normally say? Well, I pay my taxes. No, you don't. No, you don't. Even if you do, bro, you don't. There is no amount of tax to pay for people putting their lives on the line so you can sit there and believe that you personally deserve something more than another man born in this world. So then what do they do next? Well, it's the Constitution. Constitution's a piece of paper, bro.
Exactly. That's the one thing with when people will say like, "Oh, show me a law that's inherently racist and all of these things that's downright racist and all this type of nonsense." Where it's like, dude, because if it's legal or if it's not legal, it doesn't mean people aren't going to do it. And the thing that like when they say like, "Oh, you can't blame these older folks for when they use a hard R or they say this or that or they think this way, you can't blame them." It's like, well, just because it was legal to have another human being on a chain and whip them when you felt like it, does that make it okay? And obviously, none of us can go back and think how they were thinking at that moment, but you're telling me that no part of you thinks that is wrong.
And I say this, they want it both ways. So they'll say that, Those were different times. It was a different mentality, it's a different way of thinking. You can't apply today's thinking to that. That's not fair. That same person will look me in the face in 2020 and tell me, well, you have to admit, Ray, things are a lot better than they were in the 60s.
Yeah.
So you want me to time travel to a time before I was even born and say thank you for it being better than the 60s. So these are all examples of disjointed thought where I want to do what you do. This is me talking to a white guy who talks like that. I want to do what you do. When you're looking at your life, you never sit there and say, well, at least I got it better than the 1920s. You don't do that. If your boss gives you a 20% raise and you walk out the office and you tell the other coworkers, I just got a 20% raise. And then you find out that the boss gave all of them a 50% raise. Your ass is mad.
Yeah.
Even though you got a 20% raise, you don't say, well, I'm better than I was yesterday. No, you look around in the present and you say, what the hell? Everyone else got a 50% raise and I got a 20% raise. What am I? Am I trash? That's what you say.
Yeah.
So when you tell black people to concede that things are better today than they were in the 60s, that's what you're asking them to do. You're asking them to ignore what you got. You're saying, don't look at me. That's too much. Don't aspire to live the way I live, even though I didn't earn it. Compare yourself to your people back in the 60s. These are the things that people do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how do we defeat it? We have these conversations. You pay that one forward. You know what? That's how you do it, because these ways of thinking, they exist because they were born from people not talking to each other, and they're maintained by people not talking to each other. So the more we do these things, the more we connect, the weaker and the less power these ideas and these narratives will be. Because I was that black kid, man. I was that black kid having grown ass white men asking me these questions, and I didn't know the answer. And they had me believing things about myself and my people that are not true. Think about that. You're a 16, 17-year-old kid and a white man, well, looking well, suit, tie, whatever. And he goes, why do you think your people don't have anything if you're equals? And if you have a public school education, that comes off as a reasonable question. And that's a lot of what you're seeing today, coming back to, even though Candace Owens does a lot of yelling, but you got the other ones, Ben Shapiro and them.
Oh, yeah.
What you're seeing here is a different kind of enemy, that their danger is how reasonable, how objectively reasonable they come off. That doesn't sound like a horrible question, does it? Civil rights ended 40 years ago. We have laws now protecting race. Why does the ghetto still look the way it looks? Or what's the other one I like? You guys have been taking welfare from the Democrats since the 40s. They gave you welfare. We, the Republicans, offered you equality. They gave you welfare. Why are you still with the Democrats? If you don't know the full history, these sound like reasonable statements. They sound like reasonable questions.
Mm-hmm.
But when you dig into it, it's like there's a lot of information omitted. Yes, black people took the welfare from the Democrats. You know what Republicans never tell you? What were Republicans offering instead?
What were they offering?
Nothing. you had W.E.B. Du Bois, and you had Washington, Booker T. Washington. These were two of the intellectual black greats in the 40s, both on different sides of the. Do we segregate and do our own thing, or do we integrate, and that's the path of prosperity? So there was this fight in the black intelligentsia of, do we take what was called economic equality, the welfare, the economic equality, meaning because whites won't hire you for jobs and stuff like that, we're going to give you money to make things equal? Or do we hold out for social and civil equality? The Republicans offered neither. We're not going to give you no money, and we're not damn sure not going to treat you like equals. The Democrats said, listen, we love you guys. You know we love you. But asking for social and civil equality, that's a little too soon. Be patient. And that's where you start first hearing this: be patient. Be patient. Take the money. Take the money for right.
I think we're lagging here. Can you still hear me?
Right now. Yeah, I still got you.
Okay, cool.
So that's what we saw happen. So,
Oh, I've got some lag going on now.
okay.
Is your connection all right?
Yeah, I got
Okay.
you.
Gotcha. I don't know.
Now,
It just
now
wasn't
my
coming.
mic is hot.
It wasn't coming through on my end. I was worried for a second.
Oh, but yeah, I was just saying that that is what Republicans leave out. They leave out kind of like what Biden said today, or not today. That's basically what Biden said. Charlemagne the God was like, "What are you going to do for black people?" And Biden was like, "I'm just not going to be Trump. That's take it or leave it."
Yeah,
I mean,
and it's
he basically went gangster, but that's why I respect it. He was right. Take it or leave it. And that's what the Democrats did in the 40s. They said Republicans are offering you nothing. Republicans play identity politics, they just don't name it. So yes, Democrats specifically say our Latino brothers and sisters, our black brothers and sisters, they say it, they pander. Whites also, the Republicans also do identity politics, but they do it for white identity politics. They simply don't say it. When you say, we're going to make America great again, you're going to go back to the past, who are you pandering to? What population is saying, yeah, I want to go back? And that was the question you heard asking, and they'll never answer it directly. What decade? What decade are you talking about? 60s, 50s, 40s, 70s? And they know. That's why they refuse to answer it. That is identity politics. You are pandering towards that guy who remembers when the manufacturing plants were just pumping along, and you just had to get a D- average in high school, and there was a factory line job waiting for you, a good one, and you make good money, and there was not a lot of competition because the Negroes, they weren't even allowed to be in the union hall. It was great for everyone that looked like you. It was great for everyone that you could see. It was great for everyone allowed to live in your neighborhood. It was great. I understand a guy saying, I want to go back to that. I don't take that personal. Imagine if previously the world was dedicated to you, man. You and your family. Everyone bowed down to you. Are you a bad guy for saying, it was kind of good to be the king? Are you a bad guy?
I mean, I'd argue that a little bit if it's at the expense of other people's suffering. I would say yes, but I
That's
mean, granted they
action.
didn't know, I guess, or they thought they didn't have any moral obligation to know. But I would argue that yeah, it would be just because everything is going my way doesn't mean maybe I am entitled to this if it was hurting someone else.
America was set up for a out of sight, out of mind. At
Hmm.
least that America, because we got to say that too. We might all live in the same country, but we don't all live in the same country.
Oh no, and that's dude. Even in Wisconsin, did you see the? I forget. I don't know if this was real or not, but it was getting shared all over across Facebook, and I've had experiences that lead me to believe that it might be real. That Wisconsin is like the number one segregated state in the country. Milwaukee's
Yes.
like one of the most segregated. That's what you,
So
yeah.
it gets more interesting. So Milwaukee is the most segregated city in America. So with me on that one?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Milwaukee is also the most diverse city in America. You have more ethnicities to higher percentages in Milwaukee than any other city. They just don't play with each other.
Yeah.
Now, I shouldn't say that. They don't live with each other because honestly, when you go downtown for the play areas, you see everybody.
Mm,
You see everybody. But when it's time to go home, everyone goes to their parts of town.
yeah.
Now, again, that history that we don't talk about. That's the other thing, that narrative that, that was just in the South, all those issues. Wisconsin as a whole has a long history of making sure that certain people stay on certain parts of town if
Oh
they
yeah.
were even allowed in town.
That's yeah. We were just talking. I was just talking the other day about. I don't know. You've heard of Lake Geneva? Then you know Lake Geneva, being from
Yes.
yeah. So Lake Geneva, and I don't know if you know of Nippersink, but so Nippersink is a really small. They got their own little golf course, very small, little town community kind of thing. I think there's just the golf course really that you drive through there, and it was originally the only reason that people moved there and lived there and made their own golf course there is because Lake Geneva didn't want the Jewish people to come live in Lake Geneva. So you guys can come to Lake Geneva, but we don't want you in Lake Geneva. And so they basically forced these people to go make their own town over what 20 not even 20 minutes, I think 15 minutes away.
And I think this ties back to the people don't destroy history. These are the same people who are like, why do you keep talking about this stuff? Why do you keep bringing this stuff up? Why can't you just post up some pictures of some cats or something? You know?
Yeah. Or the coffee from
Yeah.
earlier. Yeah,
Or the coffee.
Yeah.
So it's like, I love history. Let's talk some history. They're like, oh, here we go, And then
Mhm.
even how you said earlier, oh, you're making me feel so guilty. I didn't do that. I don't put that in you.
Exactly. And that's
So I say if you don't want to hear history, don't be selective in what history you want. And if you are going to be selective in what history you want, own up to it. Don't say that statue belongs to the Democrats. Say it belongs to you. You're the one that needs it up. Because honestly, man, I might chip in a couple bucks. Just put it at your house. Again, how I want you to wear that uniform, I would love to mark where you live. Let's set that thing up where you live in your house. That way, when people are driving, they're like, oh, that's where they live. I say just reallocate the statues, put them on personal property, let them have them. We, the public, I mean, can you imagine that? Can you imagine being a black kid in Alabama or Virginia and you're growing up in America today, and in the middle of the downtown square is a man on a horse, just looking, riding in the battle, and you read it, and he's a Confederate soldier. He's a Confederate leader, and you're growing up in America staring up at that. That's why they built it. That's exactly why they built it. They built it for that little black kid. And people are trying to pretend now that that's not what it was built for. That's what it was built for. Black kids never needed that statue.
yeah, and
Uh,
to be honest, I don't think anybody really needed the statue if we're
well,
asking.
I argue, and that's where I want to take this. I'm looking out at what's happening right now, and I'm not seeing I'm not seeing a black white thing, even though we keep talking about race. I'm seeing a culture war. I'm not seeing a race war. I'm seeing a culture war because when I look at the protesters, it's pretty diverse. When I look at the people speaking against what's happening, I see a lot of diversity. So what I'm seeing here is two cultures colliding. This newer progressive culture, I don't even know what the proper name for it is, and this culture that needs to take something back, go back, get it back, reclaim. That's what I'm seeing right now. To where, I mean, you see it where, in response to hearing that a black man was shot and someone saying Black Lives Matter, you yell out. Actually, that was your video. You yell out Trump 2020.
Yeah.
That is your response. And that's happened to me. People have been talking to me and they're like, well, the blacks just need to stop committing crimes and stuff like that. I'm like, you mean like the people that were shot in their homes?
Yeah.
Trump 2020. That's now a it's now a swear word. You say it your enemies. You voted for Trump, but when the conversation is not going the way you I
What's that?
lost you there for a sec.
Yeah. I thought I cut out for a second. I was looking.
So yeah, I was like talking. I was like, "Oh, where'd you go?" But what it, I heard you ask. Did you get any responses? I'm wondering. You said you got some attention. Did anybody answer that question for you? What does that mean when you say that?
Oh, nobody answered that at all whatsoever. Nobody
Okay.
answered that at all. And that's the thing, is that it's like, that's when it comes down to, when people try to say, well, I don't, well, you're just trying to attack my side because you're on this side. It's like, bro, I'm not voting one way or the other. I'm not in some. I think it's ridiculous to claim a party like it's a sports team. Like I don't. If the Bears suck, I'm still a Bears fan. Like they fucking suck, but I still gotta be a Bears fan. Why is it like that for politics for people? Why can't you admit when people aren't doing what they said they were going to do, or they're not representing the good of the people they're supposed to be serving? And so that's why when I said it, I made sure to not say shit about Trump. All I did was say, if that's your response, as in it is the opposite of Black Lives Matter, then I think we need to be having a different discussion, because that's not really what that's supposed to mean. And if it does, then that's fucked up. And that's what I was getting at, was like, if you really think that that's the opposite, then I don't know what to tell you.
I was talking to a guy, so in my circles, one of my nicknames, one of my nicknames is the racist whisperer. I've been talking online for a long time, and I engage people, and there's another lie about social media conversation, that you can't reach anybody. You'll hear these people saying, "Oh, no one's ever had
Had
their
their like
mind
opinion
changed."
changed, yeah.
It's a crock of shit. It's a complete crock of shit. I believe the Russians proved that. The
Yeah.
Russians proved that by swaying an election. You absolutely can influence people over digital platforms. So there's one gentleman who actually he represents a lot of people, but one guy, he he came to me and he said, "I don't understand why this Trump hat is so offensive." And I asked him, like, what did you ask? I was like, because he approached me and said that he was minding his own business, wearing this Trump hat in the hood, and these guys started giving him static. I mean, it didn't get physical or nothing, but he's just going to the gas station and they're giving him static about it. And he's like, so that's just proof about what Trump's saying. I'm just minding my own business, wearing a hat, and guys start messing with me. So I said, did you ask them why? He's like, well, no, I thought they were going to get fired. I go, fair enough. I go, well, I don't like the hat. And we talked for a little while. And I stopped him. I said, we've talked for 15 minutes now. I told you I don't like the hat. I'm not threatening you. You still haven't found the courage to ask me why. So we started having this conversation about it, where you do know why. Because if you didn't know why, you would have asked me. If you truly were just ignorant and wanted to know, put it this way. I don't know why the Bloods or Crips are fighting about to go to South Beach, Compton, wearing either colors through and through, head to top.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm not about to do that and say, I don't know what's going on, fellas. It's got nothing to do with me. I'm from Wisconsin. I'm not about to do that. You knew there was something before you put the hat on.
Oh yeah.
If you have the wherewithal to buy a Trump hat, you have the wherewithal to know what it may mean to some people. You made that choice. You were looking for attention, bro.
Well, and that's the thing with a lot of these people, is they enjoy. That's the one thing that he did with his campaign and marketing it, whether and with the help of Russian bots and whatever. He did a great job of telling his target audience that whatever I do, it's going to make them mad. And then so he makes them mad, and then these people are like, "Oh my god, snowflakes get so mad when I do this or I do that." And that's why they think just because someone is upset, then now they're correct in whatever they were thinking. Now on the flip side, a lot of people that are, left of center on that left side, some of them do tend to not even respect like comedy and things like that can, we can joke about these things, or like you were saying before with stereotyping, whatever, that like there is time and place to be upset about things, but you can't also let just, pure emotional, rage, anger, let these people think. Because like you said, people think that you can't change people's minds. But anytime that someone has come to me with, that opposite view, and I can't say anytime, but several times I've had friends that have said and done worse than some of the people that reached out to me for this video on the opposite side. And I've just talked to them. And I don't get emotional. I don't get upset at them personally immediately. I just show them like, hey, this is what's up. This is
Yeah,
what's going on. And then
you
their
fight the
mind can be
idea.
changed.
Fight the idea, not the person.
Exactly. And it's like, yes, the person comes up with the idea, but too many times the left will do this identity politics, whatever, where they try and it's a common, debate tactic where it's you try and decredit the person. So now everything that they're saying is wrong.
Right.
And it's just, that's fine that you think they're a bad person, but if you're not attacking what they're saying, which is a separate thing than them, then why am I supposed to believe you? And that's what those people that follow Trump, that's why they mess with that so hard. They fuck with him so they're ride or die. Because they're like, he said he was going to get him mad, and he got him mad. And I love pissing people off and whatever. And if you don't get pissed off, it's a lot less fun for them. It really is.
And it's a really good magic trick, too, what he did, where he says, anything I do, they're going to hate.
Oh, yeah.
But then he did things and was hated. But here's the trick. He didn't do everything. That's like me saying, you know what? Anything I do right now, Darren's, he's going to hate it. And then I smack you in the face. See, anything I do, he hates. Then I kick you in the face. See, anything I do, this guy is never happy. It doesn't matter what I do. That's what Trump does. No, it's not anything you do. It's the things you chose to do. You chose a special subset of things. I believe he signed an executive order for autism. Nobody was mad at him when he did that. Increasing funding for autism awareness and research. I did not see anything, hear anything from the left about, well, we hate him for doing that. So it's not anything you do. It's what you do.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
different.
What are your thoughts? This will probably be the last thing we'll get into tonight, but what are your thoughts on just news and media coverage in general? Because a lot of, and that's kind of along the same lines of with what Trump did with saying, oh, whatever they're going to do, it's like whatever they say is a lie. You're a bad reporter, fake news, blah, 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 blah. Where do you think that he has himself ruined that, as a lot of people like to say, or do you think it also some responsibility has to also lie on media platforms like CNN that maybe can admit that they've kind of jumped ship on certain stories, or jumped to like water at the mouth whenever he does something stupid, and then when he does something really fucking dumb, now they're taken less seriously because the right just thinks, well, no, everything he does, you guys hate. And do you think that they have any responsibility in that sense?
So everyone's responsible for their own actions. So of course they have some responsibility. But I've argued that most of the responsibility is in we the people. Media only sells us what we want. Justin Bieber is a millionaire because somebody wanted that stuff. So yes, I will sit here all day with my friends and say that's not music, but his bank account says differently.
That's a good way to put it.
I don't understand how we the people keep saying we don't like what the media is giving us, because if that was true, they would give us something different. We keep buying. So I do not believe that the media is a derivation or something other than who we are. I believe the media is a reflection of who we are.
That's a good point. I have also heard the take, sort of along those lines, that America has the president she deserves. That because of where we're at, that's why a lot of people, that's how they justify, Trump being in office.
I I don't readily disagree with that. I in fact, I sometimes wonder not for how I let's say it this way. I believe that your best boss and your worst boss teach you the same amount. One just teaches you how to do it, and one teaches you how not to do it. I think Trump is your worst boss. And for that reason, I think he might have a impact equal to some of the best presidents. He's showing us so much of what not to do, what it shouldn't be. He's uncovering so much fakeness. Look what Trump has managed to do. The Republicans were the family party. He has got them to abandon that.
Yeah.
He has got them to say family doesn't matter anymore. We're the family party. We're about morals. But here is this guy who cheats on.
Oh yeah, cheats on his wife, and I mean, tapes leak out of him saying whatever on a bus, and
Right. He was the guy that, so again, Republicans, what was the other thing? We care about our soldiers. He basically crapped on Gold Star families. And any military service member that was now in the legislation, no respect, John McCain. And they stood by him. So he got us to see how so many people abandon things, and not just the Republicans. So another useless piece of trivia for you. Fake news, fake news going through social media, that was predominantly a conservative thing before Trump. After Trump, you started seeing a 50-50. And when you talk to people who make this fake news, they would say that it was very hard to sell it to left of center. They were more scrutinizing. They wouldn't take fake news as easily. Because of Trump, now you see both sides sharing things. I've even caught myself a couple times where I wanted it to be true so bad. I shared it, and it's like, I don't even know if that's true. And you go check it out. He never tweeted that. But he tweets so much crazy stuff, you tell yourself it was a safe bet. I'm just going to send it because I
yeah,
can't believe it.
yeah, exactly, yeah. That's I was watching an interesting video. I don't know if you've ever seen the Patriot Act from Hassan Minaj on Netflix, but it's basically, he was a Daily Show correspondent way back when Jon Stewart was on the show, and
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I think he's done stuff with Trevor Noah too, but he he did a whole bit. It just came out a couple of days ago, talking about how hard it's been to watch the news, and why that is, and where we get our news, and a lot of obviously Trump has helped make fake news more digestible for people of all ages and political views, but these companies are also buying up our local news sources, these companies, and then running them dry of assets, and running them out of all their resources, and then just going bankrupt because that company didn't lose any money. But now, and they have stock in the major media companies, and now these news stories that maybe were truthful or were coming from someone you knew and or could trust are no longer present, or are present less and less, as more and more newspaper companies and more news outlets are just being deteriorated into nothing.
True. Absolutely true. But again, I heard someone say this morning that if only people 30 and under could vote, Bernie Sanders would be the next president. So
Maybe.
the argument they were making was these crews, these companies you're talking about, they're making a play on capital. You look at your biggest companies, though, they don't own stuff. Uber owns no cars.
Yeah.
Open Table owns no restaurants. So while this might work for them in the short term, what me and you are doing right now. No one can buy us. I mean, don't get me wrong. They could buy us, but they can't buy us without our consent.
Yeah.
They can't shut down the internet. So our world is going to OPEX, operational.
I think he's cutting out. I'm losing you.
Oh, there you are.
There we go.
But yeah, so I think what we're going to see is that's not going to last very long. I don't think so. I think this podcasting, the video, going through these mediums, I think it's only going to get bigger and bigger. So they're buying things that over time, these newer generations. I mean, think about it. How many friends your age have cable?
Yeah, none. Just about none.
So what do you think it's going to be worth owning a cable network in 20 years, 30 years? What's it going to be worth?
Yeah, probably nothing.
I mean, I
Little
don't
to
know what it's
nothing.
going to be.
Yeah.
I put it this way, I'm not about to go buy into a cable stock.
Yeah.
I'll get some Roku stock. I'll get some Netflix stock, but I don't see the play long term.
No, I'm with you. That makes a lot of sense. And that's I think that's with a lot of these companies is what they're trying to do is kind of dip their toes into other things to maybe avoid that sort of thing. And by monopolizing like the news we intake or the news that we do take in, and now it's every time I open up YouTube, it's either a CNN 10-minute thing with Don Lemon or it's Fox News with Chris, what's his name? Not Chris. Is it Chris Tucker? Tucker Carlson. That's who it is.
Oh yeah.
One of the two of them. Or you get Ben Shapiro. Or Tucker Carlson
faced guy.
Tucker Carlson makes the worst faces when he's trying to listen to somebody. He is just like dumbfounded.
I can't stand his face. It's not even about what he says. I just can't stand his face.
And I'm sure that's why he got the job too. I'm sure that's part of the reason why. Because some people probably love that face and others hate it so much that they love it. Fox News loves it.
I wonder what percentage of his crowd that is. Just people who watch it just to yell at his face.
Oh, it's got to be a lot. Because I've definitely seen too many of his videos. So, but I really love. I kind of reminisce and will watch old Jon Stewart videos all the time on YouTube because he was in my eyes I loved what he did with his platform in the Daily Show and what he made that become. Before I think Trevor Noah does a nice job, but I think Jon Stewart was really good, and he rode that line of not being too crazy one way or the other.
You hear them talk, Stewart and Colbert, and how they started out, and how crazy is it now? It started as a joke, a satire, but that's one of the more reliable sources of news.
Yeah, I think it was like 8 years in a row he was I think it was 5. 5 years in a row he was the most trusted news anchor in America, and he wasn't. And he would come out and they would ask him about it every year. And he would be like, yeah, I'm not a news anchor.
So, yeah, it's just one of those things where I almost sit here sometimes and I wonder, like, is this, what is it? Is this the real life? It's like,
yeah.
Like, is this really happening? And every time I think I can't be surprised or shocked anymore, man, you got to give Trump that. Every time you think he couldn't do more.
Yeah. It couldn't get any more wild, and then it does. Well, other than that, I want to say a big thank you to you, Raymond, for being on the show. Like, I really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me, man.
I mean,
we got to do this again for sure.
Absolutely. I'm going to have you come to the studio, and we'll do it in person. It was kind of makeshift.
And you got to jump in with my crew, too, because so far we haven't had any white guys with the courage to come into our mix.
Oh, yeah. No, I would love to. Absolutely. But I want to say thank you for being on. You definitely are a super intelligent guy, and I feel like I've gotten a lot out of this conversation, learned a lot. I feel like I've learned a lot from this conversation. I feel like hopefully my viewers did as well, as we kind of run. It's a makeshift show. Every week it's different guests. Sometimes it's more comedy. The last couple of weeks has been a little bit more serious because of things going on. But I just really appreciate having you on, man. Somebody that can really tell people what's going on. You have a pretty good grasp on this world, in my opinion. Just
Well, if I could do a little plug, we need more people fighting the good fight. So there's a couple groups that I'm affiliated with. One is Code for Milwaukee. So you don't have to be a coder, but it's just about tech and doing social good through technology. There's Code for Milwaukee. The other one is the Milwaukee Data Initiative 2.0. You can find all these on the internet. Find us. And then my channel is Solutionary Tech and Data. You could just find my name. But the whole idea is, what can we do to better connect to each other and keep this thing moving forward in the right direction? So anyone wanting to get involved at any level, please reach out. If I'm not the guy, I will find you the guy you need to get connected to. But yeah, let's get her done.
absolutely. Where else? So where else can they follow you at then? What kind of handles? Are you just
So
Raymond K.
it's
Roberts?
Raymond K. Roberts everywhere. You can find me on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook. Um, Come find me. Like I said, I try to put myself out there. So
Awesome. I appreciate you being on, man. I want to say again, thank you to everybody who tuned in. I know it was a little bit of a weird start. That's my fault for not taking the time to get this set up the right way. But yeah, really appreciate you being on, man.
no, thank you. And for a great time. Hope to be back.
Absolutely, man. Thank you, and I will see you in the next episode, guys. Peace.